In our civilization, man has dignity because he's made in the image of God. In Plato's Athens civilization, man has no dignity. So these two grounding basic principles are fighting against one another, right? In Plato's philosophy, the state is God. It's embodied in the philosopher king. It's basically like Pharaoh type stuff, right? Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is the opposition to that. Now, does that mean that it is egalitarian and wipes everything out? Absolutely not. There ain't a bit of egalitarianism in the last 1,960 years of Christianity. And everybody who knows anything knows that. So be honest with yourselves. Why can't you, especially you liberal, lying church leaders? People are disgusting. Thus, my point is that what all this echo chamber alternative media crap is a waste of time. It's pointless. I mean, yes, it's good for waking people up, but you don't have models of how to erect civilizations. You have nothing. I'm telling you, we have an existing structure of the Orthodox Church that contains all the truths that we need to erect this great civilization that's already been erected in the past. Now, can we go back in time? Redo Byzantium? No. But we can build on what is still there, what's left, ruins, right? Standing on the shoulders of giants, basically. And when you read these books, when you get an idea of civilizational studies, and you grow out of just a very naive biological racial determinism, that's not everything, man. There's more to reality, to life and race. Man has a spirit. There's obviously some aspect to which all men share manhood, right? So does that mean that we go with the universal and we blend everybody into a giant blob of no individuals? No. That's the error of collectivism, the one in the many, dialectic. We don't do dialectics. We believe in a balance because in the triad there's a balance. In the church there's a balance. In the imperium there's a balance between the ethnos, right, and the leadership. All of this was laid out for a thousand years in the church fathers, especially the later church fathers. Look at the double-headed eagle. The Byzantine double-headed eagle tells you everything. There's your symbol. There's your esoteric symbol. Is it Masonic? No, it's not Masonic. It's the symbol of the ecumenical councils under the imperium. It's not Masonic. It's Byzantine. Right? So think about the books that I've recommended here. If you want to take what you're yapping and spending, wasting all your time on YouTube crap, turn that off and read some of these books. Listen to my lectures where I go through these books. This is Jay Dyer, Jay's Analysis. I challenge you to read these books and come back to me and you tell me if I'm wrong.
I know not what costs others, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Truth Stream Media with Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton on Unbound Radio.
Well, we actually have a list of stuff here that we wanted to kind of bring up having to do with things that DARPA has come out with, because I think all the time in the news we're seeing people talk about how DARPA came up with this new thing this week and it's super awesome. It's the new...
All right, welcome.
In our civilization...
That song ended a little quick here. All right, so yeah, I woke up to some more drama today. And after a hilarious, in a bad way, Twitter meltdown, where last night Father Damick basically blocked dozens of people who were asking him questions. So I'm not sure why he expected, what kind of response he expected when he began this whole situation with claiming that he was interested in rooting out misogyny, and yet he acts like a poor female victim in blocking everyone and acting like he's been treated unfairly. He's a victim because he's a public figure and he has his phone number public. And so I called him right? And he says I was mean and all this stuff, making demands. I called him the first time and I said, in a very polite way, I said, hey, I'd like to talk about the stuff that you said about me and why you said this publicly and retweeted things about me being an incel and this kind of stuff. And he said, who are you? And I said, I'm Jay Dyer. And he said, I don't want to talk to you. And he hung up. So I called back and I said, can you at least have a discussion with somebody? You talk about dialogue on your podcast. And he said, no, don't ever call back here again. And he hung up. So I guess this scared him a little bit. So he has felt the need to do this garbled, rambling expose. So I think, if he had to let it go, it probably would have just been okay. But let's look at his expose, so-called, and we're going to go through this piece by piece here. Let's see if I can get this is not a very readable way to do this here. Let's get a better screenshot of this. So I'll give you a little bit of the background too on what was going on and why all this happened. And it's really pretty ridiculous. And you would think the easiest way to deal with this stuff is to just call people and have a conversation. But they won't talk to you. They just hang up. And Father Damick is an e-celeb, and he views himself as an e-celeb. And so he won't talk about any of this stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick apart his thing one by one, and I'm going to show you all of the things from Ancient Faith Radio, which I pointed out, and what started all this. And you'll notice that everything that he said in response to me, and by the way, people have already gone to Ancient Faith Radio multiple times over the last couple of years, and it doesn't seem to do anything. And in fact, Ancient Faith Radio has just continued to go down their own trajectory. So I'm going to show you all these people, all their statements. They're public figures. They're not immune to criticism. They're not immune to questioning. And when they won't answer any questions, and when they block everyone and call you an incel, that to me suggests an attitude that is not open, not forthright, not willing to deal with simple questions. Now, I've never followed Damick. I don't know anything about him until recently. So I'm not sure what set him off, like exactly why he got so upset. Now he's going to say that it was misogyny. So he's going to white knight for what he saw as misogyny. And you're going to see how bad in his, this is so bad, his response to me, that it's really laughable about CIA plots, which don't exist, by the way. In his mind, there's no such thing as any geopolitical influence or anything in regard to the Orthodox world, even though thousands of websites in the past month, especially given the situation in Ukraine, have reported ad nauseum on the influence of the deep state, of NATO, of the CIA, and foundations in Orthodoxy. The entire Orthodox world has been debating and arguing and trying to figure out Ukraine. But in the mind of Stephen Damick, there's no such thing as geopolitical influences in Orthodoxy or in the Christian world, or in terms of foundations. So this guy is so normie, he doesn't even know about foundation money. And I'm going to show you that, first of all, Ancient Faith Radio does receive foundation money. Did I say that that proves that that's how they were going in the direction that they were? Well, we're going to see that the people that they promote that teach the radical climate agenda are directly connected to Bartholomew. And the foundation that funds both St. Vlad's and Fordham University does fund some strange things. Now, but I didn't really bring that up because there's not direct proof that money was given to somebody that is how, and that's how they were turned in a certain direction. What I said was that that's usually how this happens. So I did not say, I don't have proof that that is explicitly what happened at Ancient Faith Radio. I don't know. I don't follow Ancient Faith Radio, but I can look at the people that they promote and what they promote, and I can say, and I can ask questions. Why are you putting this? Why are you putting these things up? Why are you promoting these people who promote openly very radical agendas? And if they don't want to answer or talk about that, and they want to laugh at you, and they don't have to, right? There's a lot of people say they don't have to answer to you. It's not a matter of answering to me. It's a question of what they represent, what they're putting out publicly. And the behavior of something like that should be open. They should be fine with answering and saying, yes, we support this person, or okay, this person is not orthodox. This person has questionable doctrines and teachings that they're putting forth. But no, in fact, the whole response has just been a unilateral name calling. So he's called me a Calvinist today. And he called us last night incels, which is very unbecoming, I would say, of a priest, and violates his own standards of how to act on social media when he's retweeting his co-host from a pro-gay denomination, by the way, that's hosted at AFR, retweeting that I'm an incel, and anyone who supports what we're talking about or the questions that we're asking about Ancient Faith Radio are incels. Now, I said that there's a lot of good people at Ancient Faith Radio, and they have a lot of good content. And in fact, I think originally I would have said that Father Damick was good content, because I've only heard bits and pieces of him, and a lot of people have watched a few of his YouTube videos. But as you'll see here as we go through this, he kind of strung this together pretty quick, because he didn't notice which videos were satire, which this tends to happen. People who go on a tirade, they don't recognize satire. So he thinks that I literally said that North Korea doesn't exist, when that's not what my video says, by the way. And that video is partly tongue-in-cheek. I do talk about the questionable aspects of North Korea, which there's nothing strange about that. There are all kinds of questionable aspects of North Korea. However, I never said it doesn't exist, but you'll see he gives that impression. He's also calls me alt-right, which is not true. I've debated all of the alt-right figures for the most part, many of them, and done countless critiques of biological determinism, Nietzscheanism, atheism, evolution, and so forth. So, as we'll see, really nothing in this garbled long thing is accurate. But I want to do this point by point. We're going to refute every single one of his points, because this is going to be up for good, unless, they freak out or something and try to, I don't know what they would do. I mean, I have free speech. They're public figures. So there's no malice of forethought, because I've never followed these people. So the information that was sent to me was by a bunch of concerned people who are not happy with what is at Ancient Faith Radio. And the people that have complained about it were basically given the boot, told shut up and don't worry about it, and we're going to put on Ancient Faith Radio whatever we want. So let's look at this, and let's see, by the way, if any of his claims hold up to the documented evidence. Now, he's counting on nobody actually listening to what I said. And by the way, his whole it's all going to be deflected into him white knighting for misogyny. The actual comments that were he's referring to about misogyny, it was a person, not me, who said that the people that Ancient Faith promotes that they look like dykes. I didn't say that. That wasn't my comment. My comment was that Paul says there's a principle that you shouldn't exalt women to public teaching offices in the church. Now, there is some leeway for that, because there have been saints who have done that. Deborah in Scripture was a judge. So even in the law, and Paul in 1 Corinthians 14:34 is going to appeal to the law for that principle. It's a general principle, right? So I was not saying that women can never study theology. I wasn't saying that they can never teach kids or something like this. But in fact, a lot of these very radical political people, and we're going to see this with public figure Charlotte Riggle, who Ancient Faith Radio promoted last year, who was going to be at a speaking engagement alongside Father Stephen Freeman, who targets children with pro-gay, pro-LGBT books. Now, this was all made clear. It was all documented. And the people at AFR said, oh, yes, okay, well, we won't have her speak. However, she's still a good person, and don't be mean. Stop being mean, and don't worry about her books targeting kids. Don't worry about it. It's not your concern. Now, interesting that Damick doesn't address any of this, right? Nobody will address the actual points about what these women teach, the fact that they're allowed to teach children, and the stuff that they post. And they're all social justice warriors. They're all politically radical. They all put their positions publicly, even if they say, well, privately, for example, one of them says, privately, I don't believe in abortion, but I'm going to vote for Beto, and I'm going to plaster this publicly on Facebook because I just don't like Trump, is what she said. Enough of this Trump stuff. And by the way, she promotes the climate change stuff along with Angela Dahl Carlson and her ecumenical patriarchate buddy, Father Khalid, who are radical environmentalists. So we'll go back through all that, but let's start with our friend Father Damick here. Now, by the way, what does Jesus say? Jesus says if you have a problem, go to the person first, right? That's why I called him. So he should be glad that I actually did what Jesus says. But no, he's not interested in having an actual discussion about any of this. He's also going to imply that conspiracy theory equals heresy. So I guess all the Russians are heretics because Kirill just said that there is a global conspiracy to undermine orthodoxy, and if Father Damick doesn't think that the same forces behind the situation in the Ukraine, NATO, the CIA, Joe Biden, McCain, all who were over there hanging out with Bartholomew and meeting with the fake patriarch, if he doesn't think that has anything to do with orthodoxy in America, he is full of it, or he's ignorant. But we're also going to see that Father Damick writes for big neocon papers. So we're dealing with pretty extreme normie docs here. So let's get into this. Over the past few days, Ancient Faith Ministries content creators, including me, who is not a spokesman, I'm merely expressing my own opinions here, have been subjected to sustained social media and even 3D world pressure from a group of alt-right conspiracy theorists. Now, he's playing the victim here, and I'm not alt-right, and everybody knows that. And the fact that I've debated all them is easily verifiable. You can go to YouTube and find the debates that I've had with JF, the debates I've had with other atheists. Richard Spencer, I debated him. And so he lies and says, I don't think he knew. He just kind of pieced this together and kind of like probably Googled my stuff overnight and tried to piece this together. And so he saw a video where I said that that North Korea is a fake CIA state. And he says that I said that, and everybody who follows Jay's analysis knows that's true, right? Like what I said in that video was that there's questionable things about North Korea, and that it's goofy. And there's all kinds of goofy stuff like Dennis Rodman going and hanging out with Kim Jong-un and how bizarre that is. And he just makes it up and says that I say that North Korea doesn't exist. No, didn't say that. He says, I'm not making that up. So two false claims, nonsense right away. The accusation is, and by the way, as a public figure, he's not been... He's saying he's being pressured. He was asked questions by people on Twitter. Yeah, that's what Twitter is, bro. People can ask you questions. You're retweeting and saying things publicly. People can ask you questions. So you went on a firestorm and went unhinged and blocked dozens and dozens of Orthodox people. By the way, most of whom have nothing to do with the alt-right. You just went on a blocking tirade. Not the actions of a cool-headed guy. The accusation is that some of the content creators, who are mostly women, correct, are promoting moral positions that are counter to the teachings of the Orthodox faith. The accusation is nonsense. Oh, is it? Okay. Well, let's see what Charlotte Riggle promotes, who has been promoted at Ancient Faith Radio. Let's look at her books. It's taking me a second here. I got a whole bunch of windows open. Now the weird part is that I don't know if Damick doesn't know this, but this was a problem a year ago. And Ancient Faith Radio made a public response about it, right? They said, she's not going to speak, but we're sorry. And by the way, she's a good person. So you can find all her stuff, Charlotte Riggle, and she writes about big book of open families and how much she supports these things. And these are about new experimental gay families, right? Just look up Charlotte Riggle. Look up what she supports. So here she is. She says about her book of big families, right? This is a nonfiction book about families and the many different types of families that exist in our society. All types of families are discussed: large, small, adopted, LGBTQ, etc. This book is very diverse. It mentions LGBT couples as well as other type of couples, and includes religion and status. Right? On and on. Multicultural Children's Book Day. Now, Damick says that this is not true. This doesn't exist. Oh, yes, it does. So he's either ignorant of this or lying. She, by the way, was a gold member supporter of this website, which promotes this stuff. So if you hold on, I'll pull that up for you, showing where she's a gold member supporter. Or it was, at least. Maybe she's not anymore now that everybody saw this. They had pictures, by the way, of being at pride parades, and they said, oh, well, our children are gay, so, you know, lay off, stop being mean. It's not a matter of being mean. It's a matter of the fact that, why are you being promoted? Why are you speaking alongside Stephen Freeman at this Ancient Faith Radio event? And we'll talk about Freeman here in a moment, too. I got all this stuff here. This is so ridiculous that these people act this way. So, ironically, I mean, all they had to do was like just, you know, kind of answer basic questions. And they have acted so insane about it. Multicultural Children's Book Day. Charlotte Riggle is a proud 2018 silver sponsor for Multicultural Children's Book Day. So there you see she is a sponsor. I said gold. Maybe it's not gold. What does this site promote? Understanding transgender with LGBT books for kids. So she's right here, immediately doing it. She is a person that I believe her posts are still, there's still posts with her stuff at Ancient Faith Radio. So right away, Father Stephen Freeman is absolutely incorrect. He says that they have no connection. And who was she speaking with? Father Freeman, of course, who we critiqued earlier. Anglo-dox, so-called. Here she is at the Pride Parade. Now, according to Father Damick, none of this matters. And if you talk about it, you're a bad man. Right? Really? Really? All right, let's see. Was she a silver or a gold? Oh, no, I was wrong. She was a silver sponsor of that website, the Multicultural Children's Books. And now she's a gold sponsor. So, right away, the claim that Damick makes is absolutely not true. That's this website. You can go look it up. LGBT Kids for Books of All Ages. Gold sponsor, Charlotte Riggle, promoted by Ancient Faith Radio. Now, when they responded to this, they tried to make it out like, well, okay, we won't have her speak, but she's a good person, don't be mean to her. No, I'm sorry, a good person doesn't target children with this stuff. And that makes me mad. And it ought to make any healthy, red-blooded person mad. And so you want to know why I'm furious about these people? This is why I'm furious. What does Jesus say about people who harm children? Let's see what Jesus, who is apparently a very mean, cruel persecutor here of these poor victim people. I think everybody knows what Luke 17:2 says, right? Everybody knows this. But just so that we remember what Luke 17:2 says. For the people that harm children and target children with this stuff, is this something that we let go, we ignore? Jesus says it would be better for them to be thrown into the sea, right, than to cause these children to stumble. Now, why is Ancient Faith Radio promoting this woman and her radical agenda? So right off the bat, what he says is absolutely not true. Now again, these are public figures. These aren't special people who can't be critiqued. They're not immune. They're not gods. They don't live in ivory towers. They have their information public. They can be contacted. And the fact that they get contacted doesn't mean that the people contacting them are bad. All right, so let's see what he goes on to say. Now, by the way, there's a bunch more of these people that I'm gonna discuss. The issue is not whether the people he goes on to say that they're not perfect. Excuse me, it's not about being perfect. Ancient Faith and its content creators are not perfect. Yeah, but that's not what it's about. It has nothing to do with that. Nobody is. That doesn't mean they are being taken over by a conspiracy of foundation money, actual accusation. Now, I said that that's how this usually happens. And Ancient Faith Radio and Fordham University and St. Vladimir's do receive foundation money. Now, nobody has access to exactly what is going on there. So, we don't know if that's the cause of this. What I said was that when you look at the other denominations and churches, Catholics, Protestants, that's how those churches were subverted. And that's documented in numerous books, especially the biography of the Rockefellers that's authorized. Now, Father Damick doesn't know any of this stuff, or he's intentionally not talking about it. But I tell you the books that document it. Where is that book? I had it up. Foundations don't subvert and take over churches. They absolutely do. And it would be absolutely naive to think that that doesn't happen in the Orthodox Church. And there's a whole chapter in Rockefeller's American Dynasty, the authorized biography, that goes into how they do it. And I played you yesterday, Reese Committee hearings, right? Norman Dodd, the government hearings into tax-free foundations. 501c3 kind of organization, which basically means it's nonprofit, also an accusation. No, that's the definition of what 501c3. He says this is an accusation to say that a 501c3. They receive money from the Pharaoh Foundation, right? Now, again, I didn't say the Pharaoh Foundation is guilty. I said they do receive foundation money. And I said that this is how it's usually done. But I don't know. I don't have access to what stipulations are behind that or what. But he's acting like this doesn't even happen and that this is a crazed conspiracy theory. Well, I just played you the Senate hearings that have been had about foundation funding and about how this happens, right? The Reese Committee. So it's a well-documented thing. And anybody who studies NGOs and foundations and think tanks knows that this is what they do across the world, right? The Rockefeller Foundation puts tons of money into churches. We know about the Open Society Institute of George Soros. It's in the New York Times. That's who put money into the Ukraine coup. And here this clown is acting like you are an idiot and that this doesn't exist. But just for the sake of those who don't know this, because again, I'm not saying George Soros donated to the Orthodox Church. I don't have any proof of that. What I am saying is that this is the model of how it happens and how it's done. And by the way, he's really out of touch because a lot of people have figured this out. I mean, does he not see the news every day talking about Soros? Right? Now, this is an example, right, of the Open Society Institute, private foundation, NGO, that influences, it's now the top NGO in the world that influences churches globally. And it put over $5 billion into Ukraine, right? To magically and mystically achieve the exact same kinds of goals that Bartholomew wants to achieve in the Ukraine, right? And look at this clown acting like this doesn't even exist. He's so out of touch, so normie docs, or just full of it. He doesn't even know about the Reese Committee. He doesn't think this exists. And he thinks, what, like magically Orthodoxy is immune to this stuff? United States Select Committee investigation, tax-exempt foundations, and comparable organizations. So I'm just refuting the point that it's not a conspiracy theory, dude. Did I say that that's for sure what happened? No, because we don't know. We're not going to be ever given access to that. But I can say that that's usually what happens. Now, all this other stuff is public. And these are public figures. So let's keep going here. The pressure has been expressed on Facebook and Twitter, maybe elsewhere, where I've received comments, anti-recommendations. Anti-recommendations? What is he talking about? And for my Facebook page, demands for me to answer for things I didn't write or say. Why are you even involved in this anyway? Nobody even brought you into this. Like, you stepped into this, dude. You retweeted people calling everybody incels on Twitter. You retweeted your co-host from the pro-gay denomination. And then you stepped in and said that anyone who dares to speak out in this kind of way is incurring damnation. You retweeted the guy saying that you're damned if you do this kind of stuff on Twitter. Well, actually, Jesus says the people that target children are the ones that are damned unless they repent, right? So I don't know what he's talking about. Anti-recommendations. It's not even a word. Someone created a Twitter account for the occasion in which he called on me to repent. Said that he was calling other priests in my area and told on me to his spiritual father, who is supposedly a priest in my diocese. His profile account is something blocked. Okay, well, I don't know about this, but I can tell you about this is the kind of stuff that happens probably on both sides, because this guy who's pro-Antifa is trying to get dirt on me. And so he's going around saying, give me dirt on Jay Dyer. Give me dirt on him. Let's see where he says that. Yeah, here we go. So it's what, like, all these people had to do is just, like, I wouldn't talk to this Gavin Campbell person. And by the way, he's was spamming my website today with comments saying that I'm a con man. Now, again, look at what's happening here. Like, I'm talking about serious issues about what's going on at Ancient Faith Radio, and we'll see more of this. And what are they doing? They're responding by just nothing but insults and let's get dirt on him. Let's get dirt on him. In other words, take me down, right? When I'm asking serious questions about the targeting of children with LGBT stuff under the guise of orthodoxy at Ancient Faith Radio. Now, he gets accused of this because he, with other people, have worked with serious rabid leftist causes. So this is why you see people say, why don't you talk about your church and where you go? This is why, because this is what these people do. So, by the way, Damick should be happy that people care enough actually to do this stuff. And I haven't looked at this site recently, but people should look and see if Charlotte Riggle is still a gold sponsor of this website. Look and see if she still supports Multicultural Children's Book Day. All right. So let's move on to the next section of his confused thing here. I don't know about his who he thinks is blocking him, but guess what, dude? If you're a public figure on Twitter, everybody gets this. Okay, everybody gets goofy accounts sending you stupid stuff. It happens to everybody. Let's see about his aggressive phone calls. His aggressive phone calls are me. What's an aggressive phone call? Aggressive phone calls. Is that cussing? No, I didn't cuss at him. Aggressive. I was slamming those digits on that dial pad. I was aggressive. I was turning the rotary dial so hard that it almost broke when I aggressively called him. Also, I clenched the phone very tightly. Your parish phone number is public, so that's how I called you. The aggressive phone calls were of this nature. By the way, I didn't do anything because I knew he would do this. You can't record this stuff because it's different by state, so I didn't record it. Plus, he just hung up anyway. So the initial call, the caller did not identify himself. I did identify myself, and that's when I said I'm Jay Dyer, and then he hung up. Right. But what I said was, hey, I'd like to know what's going on with what you're promoting while you're retweeting things. And he immediately said, who are you? And I said, I'm Jay Dyer. And he said, I want to talk to you. So I called back the next day, or the next few minutes. I said, hey, can you dialogue about this? Can you have a conversation about it? And he hung up again. So that's what he thinks is aggressive. So again, this is what they always play, the victim. Oh, poor victim. I'm a public figure. I'm an e-celeb. I have countless talks and things out there in the public, countless articles I put out. All the information is public. It's on a website. It's his church website. I didn't tell anybody to be mean to him. I said, you can message him and you can call him, because he's not an ivory tower elitist. And I said, you can find the tweet. I said, be nice to him if you call, right? Just like when I called Ancient Faith Radio, I was nice but firm. So he says he's received multiple emails, most of which were demanding that I answer for other people. Well, no, what happened was you retweeted a guy calling everybody incels, and people said that's not appropriate for a priest to retweet calling people incels. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's not, right? So that's what people were mad about, is that you didn't respond to any of the actual questions. I'll show you his retweets here. Let's see, I have to scroll down. So, yeah, so he didn't actually reply to questions. He just blocked everybody. He retweeted you're an incel and blocked everybody. Now, I think that's, I'm not insulted by it. I think it's funny, especially when you consider where this is coming from and that he's retweeting a guy from a pro-gay denomination calling people incels. I mean, that in itself is pretty classic. But anyway, you can go to the Michael Landsman guy's profile if you want to, and you can see he retweeted calling everybody an incel. That's what got people kind of bothered. And then he retweets this guy after calling us incels. He basically says, you're damned. So don't condemn anybody, you mean people. By the way, you're an incel going to hell. So, and this is all right. This is all right after all this stuff was happening. So, of course, this is what he meant, right? Many will say, Lord, have we not defended orthodoxy in your name? Have we not rebuked many heretics, defended your church from the cancer of liberalism? And God will say, Lord will say, depart from me, worker of iniquity, I never knew you. So he doesn't know any of us. He doesn't know these people. He blocked dozens of people that he didn't even know, some of whom never even interacted with him, had no contact with him. So he has condemned all of these people without even talking to them or interacting with them or knowing what's going on. So this guy is like unhinged, and he's acting like he's this great victim. Now, I just showed you AFR promoting a woman with some serious issues targeting kids with LGBT books. But according to him, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Shut up. Shut up. Don't worry about it. You're going to hell. Shut up, incel. You're going to hell. So some of the attention I've gotten because of this is because I agreed with statements ridiculing certain behaviors, specifically misogynist behavior. And of course, it was exacerbated when some folks on Twitter discovered that I was blocking accounts who were swarming and multiplying into my social space. Oh, poor victim. You're a public figure, dude. And of course, in the middle of this, there were threats to contact the bishop. Well, that's what happens when you're a priest and you retweet that people are incels. That's going to happen. And of course, in the midst of this, It's always fascinating to see how such accusers are experts on what's appropriate for clergy online. Well, you're outlining for us what's appropriate, and the OCA has social media guidelines, for example, for appropriate social media interaction. And I don't think those guidelines at the OCA for appropriate social media interaction on the part of priests includes retweeting that people are incels. By the way, isn't celibacy kind of looked upon positively in Orthodoxy? I think that the monastic tradition seems to suggest that, doesn't it? I think so. All right, so let's see here. I need a little bit of water here. My throat's getting dry, so we're going to take a brief break. He just goes on and on and on. This is a really long thing. So, and I feel the need to respond to all of it. And I mean, I'm not going to leave him any nook to crawl under in this stuff, because he's acted completely ridiculous. And it all needs to be responded to, because I mean, almost nothing in this thing is true. And of course, he wants me to be seen as all right, because he thinks that's going to score points with all his normie liberal audience. And so, if you'll hold on just 1 second.
Battery 60%. Connected to Jason's MacBook.
I'm gonna get a little water and maybe a little more coffee, and we'll be right back. Brief break. Don't go anywhere.
Man has dignity because he's made in the image of God. In Plato's Athens civilization, man has no dignity. So these two grounding basic principles are fighting against one another, right? In Plato's philosophy, the state is God. It's embodied in the philosopher king. It's basically like Pharaoh type stuff, right? Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is the opposition to that. Now, does that mean that it is egalitarian and wipes everything out? Absolutely not. There ain't a bit of egalitarianism in the last 1,960 years of Christianity. And everybody who knows anything knows that. So be honest with yourselves. Why can't you, especially you liberal lying church leaders? People are disgusting. Thus, my point is that what all this echo chamber alternative media crap is a waste of time. It's pointless. I mean, yes, it's good for waking people up, but you don't have models of how to erect civilizations. You have nothing. I'm telling you, we have an existing structure of the Orthodox Church that contains all the truths that we need to erect this great civilization that's already been erected in the past. Now, can we go back in time and redo Byzantium? No. But we can build on what is still there, what's left, ruins, right? Standing on the shoulders of giants, basically. And when you read these books, when you get an idea of civilizational studies.
All right, I got my coffee here. So, so let's see where he's going to try to paint me as all right, which is not true. All right. See the next section of his thing. First, I welcome anyone who wants to speak with my bishop or fellow priests about it. You also might discover, though, that I have an actual relationship with them that goes deeper than histrionic complaints from strangers on social media. You may also discover that my bishop is far more blunt than I am. And I was actually just mentioning this to him on the phone, and he offered to call people himself if they really want to talk to him about me. Threatening people like this only works if there is no relationship. Yeah, no one's threatening you. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that should happen, right? Talking to people, that's not a threat, right? Calling people. I did have people messaging me saying that they are watching me, which I think is probably a veiled threat. You're being watched. Okay, that's good. But speaking to people in your circles is not a threat. But you seem to be such a fan of dialogue. You want to dialogue, but you don't dialogue with anyone who disagrees with you. And if you're all about relationships, then where's the love towards me? What exactly have I done incorrect here or wrong? And what does any of it have to do with misogyny, by the way? So, nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So, it is absolutely appropriate sometimes to subject certain public behaviors to ridicule. Misogyny is definitely one of them. So he's white knighting. I don't know what he's talking about. He's got the fact that I said that women should not teach in public. That's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 14. And they certainly shouldn't be teaching children Sunday school. And these people that are promoted apparently do. Some of them, at least. Such behavior does not have to be debated with. So he thinks he got his like golden thing of misogyny. By the way, where does Scripture say that misogyny is a sin? Is that anywhere listed as a sin? Something that you're not supposed to? No, this is a modern invention, along with all the other leftist ideas of what sin is, like climate change, offending the climate. So none of this had to do with misogyny. What he did was he picked out something that he would try to cast as misogyny, where I quoted 1 Corinthians 14, which he's apparently saying is Calvinist and misogynist, to quote St. Paul in 1 Corinthians 14. And he's saying, so nobody is required to respond to accusations about or questions about the content at AFR when I can cast them as alt-right misogynists. And that's not true. I mean, he had people responding to him who were been married for 33 years, right? Not incels, not misogynists. I've had tons of women reach out to me about the problems at AFR. So this is all deflection, has nothing to do with misogyny. And even the Lord, many times through history, don't be afraid to do that if you have the stomach for it. Oh, so he's white knighting like he's a hero and a saint here for what exactly? We see this happening to the saints. So he's acting like he's being persecuted like the saints, right? Third, you don't have to answer a scoffer just because he demands that to you. Okay, nobody was scoffing you. You inserted yourself into this situation by retweeting that we are incels. So none of this had anything to do with you. Nobody even thought of your name in relation to any of this. And you decided that you would find misogyny as your great linchpin here. He wants you to help him feel that he has an audience that he otherwise couldn't have gained because he's not making an actual contribution to the life in Christ. I could show you, of course, the many quotes and comments and people who appreciate the work that I do every day. So now he quickly goes to this very sort of personal, vindictive attack about how I can't gain an audience. Actually, the audience is almost the size of Ancient Faith Radio's audience. So I'm not sure what he's talking about or how deluded he is. I mean, you can actually look at the YouTube channel. You can look at the subscriber numbers at Jay's Analysis and see how many public subscribers there are. Ancient Faith's YouTube channel has, I think, 500 subscribers. Now, Father Damick has a few videos that have a lot of views, but so do I. So he wants to try to play this numbers game and try to get a rise out of me, like as if anybody can't just look and see the subscriber base for... Dude, this is all public. Like, what are you talking about? You can easily... and you can look under the comments of my videos, and you can see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who appreciate the work that I do, which you just call Calvinism. And he says I've made absolutely no contribution to the life in Christ. So this is like a mega virtue signal. I mean, look at how rabid this guy is. Like, did I say anything like this at all about him? I haven't said anything until he went crazy about him ever. I never said any negative word about this guy. And in his mind, I've made absolutely no contribution to the church. Well, I mean, I think there's countless atheists, countless Calvinists, countless Roman Catholics who've converted who would tell you otherwise. You'll know them by their fruits, right? And in good faith, I wouldn't have said, I would have said the same thing about Damick. I mean, I don't know what has driven him to this rabid, very insulting kind of approach. I think he thinks that's going to really hurt my feelings or something. But look, dude, I've been here watching this stuff, especially in the Orthodox world, for 10 years. I mean, I'm not new to how all this stuff goes down. And really, you just kind of vindicate all the problems here that people often make and say about Orthodoxy. So let's see what he says. This is why these things almost always happen in public spaces. You don't have to accept every invitation to an argument. Yeah, but you inserted yourself into this, right? You inserted yourself into this by retweeting and calling people incels and blocking everyone. So, like, this had nothing to do with you. Nobody was interested in what the issues were for you. And I've already shown you one very serious problem in regard to Ancient Faith Radio, which apparently you said doesn't exist. So there's absolutely no problems. They've never promoted anybody questionable. Well, let's look at another person that's been promoted there quite heavily. And this is a rabid environmentalist. Her name is Angela Dahl Carlson. And in her book, she speaks about how she hopes for, I can trust in the unfolding time about women's issues. I can hope that equality and ordination and the role of women in the church will always be happening. I can walk alongside that, entering in when the time is right. I hope it's enough. Now, I'm not going to read this woman's book. I've never read it. But she's talking about what appears to say she'd like to see women's ordination. And if he thinks that it's Calvinist or mean to call this out, dude, they sell the book. Right? Here, they sell her book. Still. Now, that's in her book. Now, okay, so maybe none of that's true. Maybe, that's just some old book she wrote and blah, blah, blah. But this woman is a rabid environmentalist, and you go and look at her Twitter feed, and it's all support of pro-abortion, pro-gay material. She's a very public figure. She has a publishing house, and she works with Father Khalid, who is a radical environmentalist as well. They work together, and they work in tandem with Father Khalid works under the Ecumenical Patriarch. So once again, we see that his claim that Ancient Faith Radio is not promoting anybody. He said it's nonsense that they're promoting anybody questionable. Go look up this woman and what she promotes, and you tell me if it's questionable. She's a public figure, by the way. I have to stress that because all of this stuff is out there in the public. So here she is promoting the climate change podcast at Ancient Faith Radio. Now, I thought that we weren't going to be political and that this doesn't matter. Don't bring your politics into Orthodoxy. But wait a minute. Father Andrew says that none of this exists, right? This stuff doesn't exist. There's no problems. And how dare you talk about it? And here's another woman who who has posts on sustainability, which is again part of this climate agenda. Public figure, promoted, works with the same people here at Ancient Faith, colleague. She has shows with both of them. Or she has a show at least where she's interviewed colleague. I don't know if she's interviewed that woman, but I'm so tired of both parties, almost didn't vote. And then I saw the birthright citizenship announcement, and I thought, oh, hell no. Veto for Texas, enough already. I voted. Now, everyone says this woman is not pro-abortion. That may be the case, okay? And I'm glad that she's not pro-gay, pro-abortion, or whatever. But the problem is that you're touting publicly that you're supporting pro-gay, pro-abortion candidates, and everybody knows they are. You can't hide behind, oh, well, no. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you can publicly believe one thing and privately believe another thing. Orthodoxy doesn't spill into the public sphere. Oh, but wait, we're going to indoctrinate you about climate change, which is a highly political issue. And you're going to listen to Bartholomew. You're going to listen to Ancient Faith telling you about climate change. And anybody who questions it is a Calvinist incel going to hell. Right? A meanie. Right? So, if this guy doesn't know that climate change is part of the foundations, then he has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, he wants you to think that there's no such thing as climate change as a problem in relationship to foundations. But we're going to see who Bartholomew, who is one of the key promoters of climate change, who he has written a recent book with. All pro-abortion, all pro-gay people. I'll show you all that. By the way, they're acting like this is all piety. It's all about being pious and true stewardship of the earth, which everybody agrees with. Nobody ever questioned the stewardship of the earth from the Orthodox perspective until suddenly with the Rockefeller Foundation, which created all this green movement, easily documented in David Rockefeller's memoirs and the other books I've listed. Looking for her. She's got a show on a video she did for Ancient Faith on, here it is, sustainability. This is, there you go, promoted at Ancient Faith. And these people don't know the history of the green movement. They don't know where it comes from. These people, I'm sure they think they're doing good. They're helping Mother Earth, right? But they don't know the entire origin of the green movement, its foundation funding, how it's about technocracy, how it's about eugenics, depopulation, all of this. But they're promoting this all over Ancient Faith. And this is a new thing, isn't it? So if Father Damick thinks that this new turn with the giant promotion of sustainability and climate change at Ancient Faith has nothing to do with foundations and has nothing to do with globalism, he is either ignorant or bad-willed. And yes, of course they're going to talk about it as, no, we're just meaning good stewardship of the earth. That's all we mean. That's all it is. I'm looking for Father Khalig's show here about climate change. And I can tell you right away, he comes out of the establishment university system. This Father Khalig character is trying to put out a documentary on climate change and sustainability called The Face of God. I think I showed all these in the other thing. But yeah, if you want to see, you can look up the other stream where we talked about him. But I mean, it's on the front page of their site here. I'm trying to, let's see. My internet's running slow because I got pages open. Right. So he's trying to make it out like this is about people being mean and uh-oh, I don't see it on the front page. Maybe did they take it down? Surely not. Let's see. I want to document every bit of this. I'm not going to leave anybody any space to say that what I said is not true. Anyway, well, they've got plenty of posts on climate change. Let's see if I can pull it up. Here it is. Here is the show. Yeah, there it is. And the entire history of the Green Movement is explained in this book, the man who founded it, and he discusses its purpose, as well as the authorized biography a minute ago. So let's see about what this conspiracy theory is, which I read the other day. Some even believe, this is David Rockefeller, that we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family as one of the internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world for a more integrated global political economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it. So here's David Rockefeller in his memoirs, page 405, admitting that it's part of a conspiracy. Father Damick says that there aren't conspiracies. He painted what I said as lunacy. And yet the news today, last night, front page of RT, a global conspiracy undermines the Orthodox world. Now, wait a minute. Neocon Father Damick, who writes for First Things, giant neocon publication, says there aren't conspiracies of this nature. Interesting. All right, so let's move on in his critique here as we get through this laughable thing. We're almost done with his stuff, and then I'm going to show you more of the people that are promoted. And you can make a judgment call whether it's cause for concern. I don't think you will disagree with me about it being cause for concern. Fifth, I have no regrets about ejecting a scoffer and his followers from social media space. Now, a lot of people were asking you questions and didn't even interact with you. And what you did was you went through your list of friends on Twitter and just started blocking every single person that we had in common. Now that is lunacy. That is histrionic. He says he wasn't engaged in histrionics, and everybody has seen him engage in histrionics. So now he's trying to backpedal and explain it. And you started all this by stepping into the fray and retweeting that we were incels, which is laughable and absurd, which he won't admit that he did that, and everybody knows that he did. He retweeted the Michael Landsman guy calling us incels, which I don't care. I think it's funny. Like, I'm not worried. I mean, anybody who knows me would think that's funny. And, you know, now everybody's just going to be the incel army in a satirical way. They're not interested in a relationship with you. I called you, exploiting you for their own projects. No, I called you and I sent countless traffic to Orthodox to get the Orthodox Study Bible. So why would I do that when my whole goal was to exploit you? I don't even know you. I've never interacted with you, never spoken to you, never said anything bad about you. And anyone who knows me knows that when it comes to this kind of stuff, there's hardly any calling out of people. People, in fact, have criticized me for not calling out enough people. So everything that he says is not true. Like, talk about not having a relationship, not interested in a relationship. You hung up on the phone, dude. You could have easily just interacted. And I always operate this way. I call people. I interact directly with people. That's why I called the Ancient Faith guy. So again, not true. Anybody who knows me knows this is not true. So I'm exploiting people for my own projects. I mean, I have never interacted with Ancient Faith. Don't have anything to do with it. I critiqued Father Stephen Freeman, a video which has had 10,000 views almost, at least, not counting the audios. So no, again, not true. He's calling people scoffers who just simply want to beware of threats in the church. So he should be happy that people are interested in this. He should be happy that people want to root out people targeting kids with this weird pedo stuff, right? The LGBT stuff. Not interested in earnest engagement over the issues. I mean, everyone has reached out to you and you don't want to respond to anybody. Their bad faith approach. Okay. Calling people incels is in bad faith. And then calling everybody damned who questions Ancient Faith Radio is preposterous. And so he says, feel free to shut them out and stonewall them. Well, I say the same thing with the people who act this way, the people who are going to promote modernism, the people who are going to promote the agenda of Ancient Faith, which is to promote these radical women. And by the way, there's a trick that they do where they'll put women in these positions because they know that anybody who criticizes them for teaching these false doctrines, they can hide behind the victim status and act like they are being misogynist, right? I'm a misogynist. No. What they are doing, what they're teaching, what they're promoting these women is not orthodox. That's the issue. Okay, so it has nothing to do with misogyny. He thinks that it will likely make them crazy. No, I'm glad that we never interacted. I would hope one day that you have a change of heart. I mean, it's well known that you ran your own Facebook fan group and wrote everything in the third person. So that to me evidences a bizarre attitude here. I don't know what kind of person thinks that way, but I was going to show you his fan book, his Facebook fan page, his fan group that he, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better vindication of all of these points than the way that you've responded. I mean, you have inadvertently and foolishly called attention to all of these things at Ancient Faith in your attempt to just try to make me look like the worst human being alive. So this hasn't damaged me. It's not hurting me. It's not, you're bringing attention to this. And it's not wrong to bring attention to this very serious issue with the stuff that's being promoted, especially when it targets kids. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you don't see that, if you're not willing to see that, that's not my problem. All right, there's so many screenshots of this garbage everywhere. I can't find his. his Facebook group that he ran, he ran by himself, that he ran it and wrote everything in third person. So this guy's an egomaniac. So when he thinks that blocking me or people would drive us crazy, no. This has been bizarre and a spectacle. So he says it's important to pray for people who display their brokenness to you on the internet. No, I think anybody who knows me knows I'm not broken. I mean, we do quite a bit of lighthearted comedic things around here. I have a fiance. I don't think she would at all speak of me as a broken individual. So, a very bizarre hit piece here that he did. And he says, unless you're responsible for those people and have a relationship with them, you have no spiritual obligation to them except this one. Pray that they be blessed with all the good things, especially peace of heart. Okay, but this all sounds good, and everybody agrees with that, and that makes you appear very heartwarming. But the issue that people raised was over LGBT books targeting kids. Okay, and this issue has been raised for at least a year, or almost a year, months now, in relationship to Ancient Faith Radio, especially Charlotte Riggle. Very concerning. It seems to be being pushed aside. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. But they seem to continue their trek of promoting these radical women. And your only response is to say that that's misogynist. Okay, this is very weak, extremely weak, and very unchristian of you. And people have reached out to you. I've reached out to you. And it wasn't an aggressive phone call. What does that even mean? An aggressive phone call. He says, these people are hurting. No, actually, I was righteously indignant. I was mad over this ancient faith stuff because I put at least 20 years, I did my graduate work in relationship to geopolitics, propaganda. And in the graduate realm, you learn how think tanks and NGOs operate. So I know how the climate agenda infiltrates churches. I know how the climate agenda was started, how it was founded, the Club of Rome. I bet you Stephen Damick doesn't even know what the Club of Rome is. He's never heard of the first global revolution. He's not aware of what David Rockefeller writes in his memoirs. He's not read any of these books that we reference. But if we consider, let's see, I got to make some room here on my desktop. I got too many pictures here. So let's see here. Let's look at the company. So anyway, that's the end of his thing. His really pitiful attempt. And then somebody said later that he was calling us alt-right. I think there's a tweet where he says, I'm a Calvinist. There's a Calvinist spirit behind this, which is laughable because anybody who's, followed my stuff over the years is that I have countless, works against Calvinism, countless old essays. Numerous Calvinists have converted because of a lot of the essays that I've written. Now, I'm not saying that makes me special. I don't think that doing that kind of work makes you special. Now, he sees himself as an e-celeb. That's fine. This kind of stuff happens with the nature of the internet, right? But to castigate people who operate the exact same way in terms of promoting things publicly, here's the fan book, his own Facebook fan club that he ran and wrote about in third person, which suggests egomania, which is what, of course, he says is everybody else's problem. Now, if I was an egomaniac, I would go along with this stuff. It would be very easy to be a darling of any of these normie docs, right? Promote evolution, say the Bible has errors, promote the ahistorical nature of the Old Testament, like Father Stephen Freeman does, who turned me off of Ancient Faith Radio 10 years ago. I mean, they've hosted his blog for many, many years. I've done lengthy critiques, as you know, of Father Freeman. If you haven't seen those, I would check them out. I'll show you here that because it's an important analysis given the fact that he says, it's misogyny that I've critiqued these women. No. I first critiqued Stephen Freeman because, as many Orthodox priests, deacons, lay monastics have reached out to me, they were troubled over the stuff that Father Stephen Freeman posts. Nobody seems to answer it. When we questioned Father Stephen Freeman in his comments on his blog, he deleted all the comments. He then later emailed me and said he was sorry for deleting all the comments, but of course he still believes in the non-historical nature of the Old Testament. And again, this has been called to attention by countless people, and once again, it's because of his Oxford tradition. Now, again, the idea that the pro-gay opinions are not part of a real problem is not true, given the fact that, again, Timothy Ware has made a recent statement of that nature. Sister Vasa made a statement of that nature. And so anybody who doesn't think that that agenda is not moving into orthodoxy is deluded. Just read the way Jesus speaks to the churches in the first three chapters of the Apocalypse. Well, chapters 2 and 3, right? The letters to the 7 churches. All the stuff that's there is the kind of stuff that I'm warning about. And if Stephen Freeman thinks that that's being a Pharisee or legalistic, then we have to wonder, does he, Freeman or Damick, do they actually take this stuff in Scripture seriously? So, for a longer critique of showing the fact that I did not just criticize women, and that it's not a matter of females, except for the fact that they will promote those women who, because of minority status, supposedly women are supposedly minorities when they have all the rights in America as anybody else, even more so. That supposedly they think that makes them immune, right? So you can go to my lengthy 2-part discussion, which he thinks has had, I don't have any audience. Nobody pays attention to this stuff. I think, by the way, if I don't have an audience and if nobody pays attention to what I do, why did you have to make a public announcement? Why are you're claiming that you're being oppressed by social media mobs? But that would suggest that I have an audience and that the stuff that I'm talking about might matter, right? So why are you responding to somebody that doesn't matter? So if you want to see the fact that, no, it's not about women, it's about the doctrine, you can go to my video, Orthodox Hermeneutics, Patristic Inerrancy Witness, and Father Stephen Freeman Refuted. And you'll see that over 9,000 views, almost all thumbs up, 300 plus thumbs up to 20 something. And there's a 2-part to that. And you'll see the comments are almost all positive. And you'll note that almost everybody who reached out to me after I did that critique said, spot on, spot on. So, no, not about women. So the misogyny defense is complete gobbledygook, complete deflection. Anyway, I'm not going to go into his personal history. He's a theater major. Nothing wrong with that. He is from a Baptist background. Now, he wants to talk about, bringing Protestantism into Orthodoxy, and he says, I'm a Calvinist. That's what he was saying today on Twitter, that we are hell-bound Calvinists, Pharisees, of course. But I seem to see that he's from a Baptist background too. And of course, Baptists aren't always Calvinists, but bro, you're from the same background. Like, there's not a lot of room for that kind of criticism here. Like, you're from the same milieu. So, anyway. He's also good buds with the Orthodox rapper, Jamie Bennett, who I've known for a long time. And I'm not gonna talk bad about Jamie Bennett, but I mean, If you know the Orthodox rapper Jamie Bennett, well, you can figure all that out on your own. So what I'm saying is that I'm sure he hit up Jamie Bennett and different people to try to find some dirt, and I'm sure Jamie Bennett was more than willing to give some dirt. But you can go listen to the podcast that Jamie Bennett does. You can go listen to his Orthodox rap, which is laughable, by the way. So I mean, these people are a joke. As far as I know, Jamie Bennett is a libertarian Orthodox rapper who did food blogs, focusing on what matters: food blogs and Orthodox rap music. So you see who we're dealing with: white knights, and people who have absolutely no conception of geopolitics, absolutely no conception of big picture stuff, how it works. They think that they are laying down the law when they, quote, expose conspiracy theorists, right? It would, of course, blow his mind, to talk about. Here's that other woman, by the way, and her Twitter feed, which is all Hillary stuff. Hillary, Bernie, Obama, Nelson Mandela. Essentially the most establishment left stuff you could ever imagine. That's all her Twitter feed is. And here's Father Khalid attempting to make his climate change propaganda documentary called Face of God, right? Carbon footprint. These people are goofuses. They don't know anything about this stuff, and they won't listen to you when you try to talk to them about it. Now, again, they think there's no such thing as foundations in the churches. Now, we did a whole stream about this. I totally demonstrated how this works. And I'll show you once again an entire book from a scholarly Catholic perspective on how it was done to the Catholic Church. And anybody with any sense knows it's not any different in Orthodox circles. John Courtney Murray, Time Life Magazine, and the American Proposition by David Wimhoff. Okay, and that book describes how the CIA in its doctrinal warfare program, which Father Damick says doesn't exist. None of that, it doesn't even exist. It's not real. I mean, I think that he really overcalculated here because he was so arrogant with this, and he just thought that everyone would sort of follow his cult of personality, and that they wouldn't actually look. I mean, it's like he assumes everyone is stupid, that they won't look at who these people are. It's the internet, dude. Anybody can find this stuff. Here is Angela Dahl Carlson, and of course she is retweeting Hillary about the Russiagate nonsense. So she promotes the Russiagate conspiracy. Ancient Faith Radio is promoting people that promote the Russiagate conspiracy. Not surprising. Now, you're not supposed to talk about any of this. Don't call any of this out, or you're a bad man. Right? That's what makes you a bad man. A bad misogynist. Literally the weakest criticism I've ever heard. In fact, I take it as a badge of honor that these people would call me a misogynist. And I think at one point, I've not seen the actual comment, but people are saying that he said I was alt-right. No, go watch my debates with JF. Watch my debates with multiple alt-right people. You can find the audios of those as well. And you will see that I consistently disagree with Hitlerism, neo-Nazism, fascism, atheism, Nietzscheanism, biological determinism, materialism, and all of the cacophony of views that go along with what we could essentially call liberal racism, right? Which is the majority of the alt-right with their libertarian / evolutionary Darwinistic assumptions. Now, ironically, many of the people who support these people, right, the so-called left Orthodox, normie docs, right, Ameridox people, they're almost all theistic evolutionists. So they're already actually on the step towards the racial determinism, because Darwinism is bound up with racial determinism, when they are trying to critique everyone else. So here's examples of him blocking countless people who had absolutely nothing to do with anything conspiratorial, or just simply asking him questions. And he saw it as an opportunity to create drama and try to solidify nobody asking questions about the content at Ancient Faith Radio. There seems to be a very serious attempt to not want anybody to actually look at the content, but to only think about me as a bad man. So I'm going to show you a little more of this. So this is another girl that they promote, woman. She is a Copt who is a gender studies major. Okay. Miriam Yusuf, public figure, teacher, social justice, understanding privilege, microaggressions. Okay. She's not Orthodox. She's a Copt, first of all. And she puts up stuff about how to change the Coptic church from its racist, masculine, patriarchal prejudices. Okay, so do you see a pattern here? This is from Ancient Faith. They still have her microaggression stuff here. I listened to her microaggressions podcast last night, and it's the most gobbledygook, nonsense, university touting, foundation garbage. By the way, she works for a foundation. She's a foundation operative. Miriam Yusuf, gender studies major. So, I mean, come on, dude. You think I'm not allowed to criticize gender studies majors posting complete social justice nonsense and how you're supposed to police your speech because of microaggressions against minorities? That's what this whole thing is about in this podcast. So again, is he not aware of this? If he wasn't aware of this, maybe he should have stopped and looked to see what was going on there before he went on this craziness of calling people incels, stepping into this, saying that we're all damned Calvinists. I was looking for, there's also, I wanted to show you too that she is a Copt. She's not Orthodox. Again, they'll put anyone on. They'll dialogue with anybody unless you have views like we have. So you can find, this is her, I think this is the foundation she works at. Now this is a different project. Miriam Yusuf chanting for change in the Coptic church. So she is a foundation worker brought on at Ancient Faith Radio. Supposedly her podcast was canceled. The stuff's all still there though, but it had low ratings. Okay, yeah, so it's just about ratings. Well, actually, it shouldn't be about ratings. It should be about what they're saying. Well, now wait a minute. I thought foundations don't have anything to do with churches or what goes on in churches. Really? They don't? Let's see who Bartholomew, who has written his new book with. So, and you notice too that the way they operated was because they can't answer or deal with any of this stuff. They don't want any exposure. They don't want to actually answer these questions. So this is a new book put out. You're going to laugh at this. I think I mentioned this last night, but John Chrysagus, the rabid ecumenist. Bartholomew, apostle and visionary. Okay. That's this book. What's this book about? Well, let's see who's in this book. Our friend Bergoglio, Pedo Master, pseudo-traditionalist Pope Benedict XVI, Rowan Williams the Druid. Yes, the Arch-Druid of Canterbury, Rowan Williams. Let me show you that. So like for like, you know what I mean? Like attracts like. So the people that he is defending and promoting, total globalists, total apostates. Notice who else is here before I show you the Rowan Williams, the Archdruid of Canterbury. David Rosen, don't know who he is. George Stephanopoulos, big time Democratic operative. Jane Goodall, Gorillas in the Mist. This is so retarded. Joe Biden and Al Gore. Oh, exactly. Creeper Al Gore. Now, wait a minute. Oh, I guess being a creeper like Joe Biden, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter, does it, Father Damick? It doesn't matter that Bartholomew puts this out, that he's the apostle of climate change. And he's supported by all of these obvious deep state operatives. Now, he says that it doesn't matter, that there's no such thing as found. I mean, let's look at the Archdruid here. This is the BBC article. You can still pull this up. That's who these people are. BBC News. Rowan Williams, co-author of this book, nature-worshipping Luciferian, is a druid. The new Archbishop of Canterbury has been inducted as a druid in the centuries-old Celtic ceremony, August 2002. Now that's who you dialogue with, right? Druids, creepers, degenerates. These are the good people, and we is the bad men, the baddies, the bad people. Now, I don't follow ancient faith, so I'm sure there's even worse stuff than all this. People have been sending me stuff nonstop about garbage there. There's another person, I'm not even going to go into hers, because there was a girl who writes for them, and she put up a post about women no longer have the full guilt for abortions because they've been commodified by the market. So because women are supposedly commodified, there is a big-time loss of guilt when they get abortions. They're not really guilty. So a lot of people were confused by her statement, and so I asked her. We had a conversation about that, and she said, well, it means that they don't really have guilt because they're commodified. Their bodies are commodified. So she's spouting this sort of Marxist line, and I know Marxism. I was taught under Frankfurt School people in grad school, so I know how Marxism works. Yeah, I have countless videos and critiques of the Frankfurt School Marxists. I think everybody knows this. And her responses were just nonsense. And she's the one who reported me to, by the way. So that's why my Facebook was banned. You could Google for a few minutes and you can find out the different foundations involved in these groups. We can look at the Fordham University is who churns out a lot of these people who police us, who are policing orthodoxy and reporting radicals, so-called. One of these is Hannah Gayes. She's a Harvard graduate, right? And she watches and reports on radicals, and specifically Russian radicals. So she's going to root out all the mean baddies. She also supports the Russia bot narrative that Russians got Trump elected. Trump is a Russian agent. And that pretty much seems to be the continual line here with these people, is that they're all modernists. They're all hiding behind a facade of being persecuted women, minorities, so they're immune to criticism. They teach unorthodox things. They publicly tout all their unorthodox views, and they're allowed to. They're allowed to run free. But now, if you don't tout those views, you tout views that I talk about, then you get shut down. You get people coming after you. You You get the system coming after you. But remember, Damick says there's no conspiracy theory. Right? There's no such thing as conspiracy. This guy is so out of touch, so normie, that he thinks he can literally say that there's no such thing as conspiracy theories, and they don't relate to the religious realm or the Orthodox Church. But now, anybody who has followed anything at orthochristian.com or the entire history of the Ukraine coup, the Soros money that went into the Ukraine coup, and the spawning of that revolution there, which has now led to a church revolution in terms of trying to create the autocephalous thing, right? Which I covered in the stream the other day, the spooky subversion stream. So we're not going to rehash all that because that's all covered in the spooky subversion stream. And you can go see in detail how it works with subverting cultures and subverting churches through tax-free foundations and think tanks and NGOs. Now, anybody who goes to university, the academic realm, they learn this and they try to get jobs at them. So for him to act like that doesn't exist is utterly ridiculous. Okay, I mean, anybody within a minute can Google and see that tax-exempt foundations and think tanks exist, and people love to work in them and try to get jobs at them, right? Brookings Institute, Rand Corporation, Carnegie Endowment, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, National Endowment for Democracy, on and on and on and on. Open Society Institute. There are oodles of these. And they all promote the Russia narrative. They all promote the same stuff. They all promote Filaret, right? Just like Bartholomew does. So, again, I wish that there wasn't a lot of geopolitical influence. It's tragic that there are geopolitical influences in the church. But regardless, it's real. And let's look at another thing he doesn't think is real, which is subversion of the church. Now, Orthodoxy has issued multiple condemnations of Freemasonry in regard to Orthodoxy. And you can go to Orthodox Info, been around for a long time. They have several of these posted about statements of the church on Freemasonry. And guess what? The statements of the church on Freemasonry consistently talk about infiltration. But now he says that doesn't exist, and that's a conspiracy theory. Now, if that doesn't exist and it's a conspiracy theory, why has the Orthodox Church consistently put out declarations against Masonry and their subversion and infiltration? Does he even know this? Is he a Mason? You can't be Orthodox and be a Mason. I mean, this is well known. I think even the OCA publicly says you can't be. See what, now there are many encyclicals about this kind of stuff, even in the Roman Catholic Church. You can't be a Mason, and everybody knows this. It's all public. The OCA publicly says it is forbidden to be a Mason. And why is that? Well, the teachings are in direct conflict with Christianity. Now, a large portion of American Orthodoxy tolerates Freemasonry. And that's because Freemasonry is a subversive organization. It's a brotherhood. And again, most of the people in it don't know what the real deal is, but it is a global subversive institution. And anybody who has a degree in history, which I do, knows that, who studied these movements. See, I know how movements work. I know how worldviews work. I study these things. I know how anthropology works. In fact, my level of expertise is in how worldview works. I have at least a PhD level understanding of how worldviews work. And anybody who's followed my work knows that. So belief systems, Weltanschauung, that is probably what I am a full expert on. So when he's acting like there's no such thing as subversion. The church doesn't get subverted. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. So preposterous. What a silly thing. No, in fact, Orthodox have known this for a long time. And they've issued countless statements about it. In fact, I would highly recommend, too, a very insightful essay by a monk on the influence of Freemasonry in Greek ecumenism. And this is at geopolitica.ru. It's an excellent essay because he details the academics in Greece who had adopted the philosophy of the Lodge a long time ago. And the philosophy of the Lodge, of course, is at root behind globalization, behind secularism, behind abortion, behind religious freedom, all the things that are not Orthodox teaching, right? So you can find all that, not a conspiracy theory, well documented, well known. And he's either speaking from ignorance or he's too fearful to talk about these things. It's probably something like that. All right, so I think I've hit all the main points I wanted to get to. There's other problematic things about ancient faith I'm not going to even go into because I think, here's all the evidence. I've laid it all out. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to interact with you. He's being disingenuous when he says that that the people he's talking to don't want to have a relationship. No, I've reached out to all these people. That's kind of like journalism, right? It's not bad to be a citizen journalist, by the way. They're always talking about, right, the laity being involved in the process, and many of them, all these women that they promote, want the democratic process of the laity raised, right? They want more of that. Many of the clergy support this idea of a more democratic church, and this is across the board. But now when you start talking about the stuff I talk about, then they pull rank. Then it's all about, you're a nobody, you don't matter. Why are you replying to me? If I'm a nobody, who doesn't matter, by the way. So they want hierarchy when it comes to cushy stuff, making sure they get fat paychecks. But they want democracy when they're trying to appease the radicals and the minority groups. And that's because this is how foundations work. They promote those kinds of people. So, again, I'm going to stress that everybody can look up foundation funding. There are websites that track foundation funding, and they can look up who funds what. It's public knowledge. You can look up who funds these institutions, Fordham University, St. Vladimir Seminary. You can look up all of that and see who funds them. And I'm sure, there could be information that's hiding in there too, right? They want to cover that stuff up. They would like to hide that stuff if there is subterfuge and subversion because of that. Now, I don't know if that's true, right? So I've not made the accusation that that is definitely the case. I said that is often the case in all the other religious denominations who were subverted and turned to bad news and degeneracy. It was done through the think tanks and the foundations, the tax-free stuff, the NGOs, right? And I said that if you think Orthodox is somehow immune to that, that is naivety. So that pretty much covers everything that I have to say on the subject. Obviously he isn't interested in talking to me. He has no interest in dialogue as he pretends to. He's only interested in dialoguing with people in the pro-sodomite churches, who he features on his podcast, by the way. And that's the guy who called everybody incels, and he retweeted that. So very ironic, by the way. Very ironic. So these are the people saying that I'm an incel. Which, again, it's funny. I'm not bothered by it. But So everybody can look at all of that evidence. Notice that he didn't put forth any evidence. He didn't put forth a single citation of anything to do with geopolitics, anything to do with the church, anything to do with how subversion works, any recommendations to anything. His whole post is about how I'm bad and they're all victims. And his Twitter is about how we're incels and we're going to be damned and we're Calvinists. So you've seen all this stuff. You can make your own assessment of it. All these other people can make an assessment of it. I don't insult your intelligence by trying to act like all this is conspiracy theory. I mean, anybody who watches my North Korea video can see that it's tongue-in-cheek. It's silly. So there you go. We will read some of the super chats here and see what's going on. You should do a disrep. Nah, I would just feed into them. You know, I mean, they're acting extremely immature, 10 times worse than anybody who's criticized them or reached out to them. So that would be, it's not worth doing that. Thank you, Jen Powers, for $5. Ginger Sensation, £5. His response is highly suspicious. It's complete nonsense. It's in bad faith. And he has all the hallmarks of a company man. Interesting. So deflection, yeah, diversion, making up stuff that everybody knows is not true. White Top, $2, thank you. Summer Cats, 5. Small error, the raising saints and sustainability. It's about family scheduling that you can maintain. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you watch, I watched her video. She's talking about importing sustainability, which is a globalist green agenda concept, into the ideas of orthodoxy. And she does work with the Khalid character there at Ancient Faith. Let's see. Orthodox Pilgrim. Father Damick is a liberal hiding in a cassock. He is blind to the fact that the Orthodox Church is being infiltrated just like Catholics and Protestants by socialist agendas, yes, which are funded by the elite billionaires. Why is he blind to it? Well, it could be multiple reasons. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't judge people's motives, right? I look at the objective evidence. You'll notice that what the people like this, these very sensitive and very, very touchy victimhood people, what they always do is they run to your motives. I look at the objective issues and they impugn the motives, right? That's always a telltale sign of arguing in bad faith, not being able to actually deal with the evidence. So I don't know. I don't know what his issue is. I've never even talked to him or interacted with him. I've never followed him. So he stepped into this, retweeting. Everybody was incels, put up a public statement. So that's why I'm making this. Because he is part of that agenda. Well, it could be. He could be part of that agenda. Again, I don't know him well enough to know what he knows and doesn't know. So he may really believe that think tanks and the CIA and NGOs don't do this. But anybody who has watched the news over the last several months would laugh at that, given the fact that the largest Christian sites in the world and the mainstream media sites in the world have discussed the geopolitical subterfuge in relationship to the Ukraine, which is not immune to the U.S., right? It's not like, oh, that's just the Ukraine. No, it affects the U.S. So does he know any of that? I mean, I was showing you the New York Times was talking about how everybody has to rally around Bartholomew and get rid of Putin's thumb over Ukraine. Putin is ruling Ukraine with a tyrant through his KGB churches. That's what the New York Times just put up the other day. And everybody needs to rally around Bartholomew and his deep state CIA compadres. Josh Schmidt, $5. What are your thoughts on the Antiochian Patriarchate? I haven't really followed him personally or what they put out. I know there's been criticisms of the Patriarchate about modernism and liberalism, but I haven't followed them close enough to know. So I don't know. So I think everybody, you can see that questions were asked. This is the sequence of events was that months ago questions were asked. People asked publicly because the people that were touting the pro-LGBT stuff on Facebook, like Charlotte Riggle, people were asking, why is this being promoted? It wasn't just me. It was a lot of people. So that sort of kicked it off. Then other people started looking at what was being promoted at Ancient Faith. So people started turning up all of these strange things and strange doctrines and strange people being promoted. And it seems to be, the consensus seems to be that it's in the last couple of years. Many people have made this point. So people were asking questions, and they're honest, fair questions. It's not evil to ask these questions, but these people are acting like you're bad for doing it. Here's what a longtime reader of the site said, echoing dozens of people's comments. Not a lot of people. No, that was my comment. Hold on. Where's this other guy's comment? Got so many comments on here, I can't find them. It's all his garbled diatribe here. Anyway, that's not it. But it's on my Twitter feed. Let's see. I'll pull it up. This guy stated it well, which is what many people were saying. Well, let's see here. Got so many tweets, too much to look through. All right. So this guy says he's been a follower of Ancient Faith since they began. And so, come on, Facebook, being slow. All right. This guy says, oh, come on. You wouldn't think OBS would require this much. Okay, here it is. Above is Michael Landsman. He's the guy who, he's a former Word of Faith preacher, was some kind of Reformed pastor. Now he's part of the pro-gay United Church of Christ denomination. That's who hosts the podcast with Damick. He's the one that called us all incels, and that's who Damick retweeted. So I've listened to Ancient Faith Radio since it first came online. About 3 years ago, there was a noticeable change in spirit and content. Now, this is what countless people say. Again, I don't follow Ancient Faith. I haven't since 10 years ago when they were putting up Father Freeman's denials of the historicity of the Old Testament. So they have sold out and now peddle poisonous lies to the unsuspecting. As for getting these folks to talk to you or answer questions, you can forget it. Exactly. That's what seems to be the case. I reported an Antiochian priest for being a Buddhist and spreading Eastern religious teachings rather than the Orthodox faith. The bishop angrily told me not to contact him again. So I don't know that guy. I don't know about his story, but what I'm saying is that is the consensus of what people say about trying to interact and get answers to these questions. All they do is say how bad you are if you dare ask questions. Well, I'm sorry, but no, not afraid of these people. And let's see, got another super chat here. It takes a little while sometimes for the super chats to come in. To what extent does the Russian government have its hands in the Russian church-state symphonia? Well, I mean, this is a difficult question because symphonia can lead to the danger of that kind of stuff, the church being ruled by the state. So this is really not something immune to any church anywhere. It's a danger that is there all the time. But I think that, again, the fruits speak for themselves, right? I mean, you'll know them by their fruits. This guy sitting here telling you that there's no such thing as conspiracies when one of the largest Christian leaders in the world is telling you to follow climate change while he works with the biggest globalist on the planet, Bartholomew, right? The books I showed you. None of that matters. Don't worry about it. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up, incel Calvinist. Shut up, Pharisee. So what if children are targeted with LGBT books? So what? Shut up, Calvinist. Right. So anyway, the original picture I had for the stream is the largest denomination, or excuse me, the largest Orthodox Patriarchate, the Moscow Patriarchate, front page of RT, right? Says that there's a global conspiracy, but Father Damick says there's no such thing as global conspiracies, and the CIA doesn't do anything like that. Let's hammer that one home real quick. Did you know, by the way, that the term conspiracy theory was a weaponized term created by the CIA in the wake of the investigation into JFK? So, Damick says no such thing. Kirill says there is. By the fruits you'll know them. Right? Who's standing up for orthodoxy? Who's transforming Russia, the Russian churches? So, thank God. I'm happy for it. And, we're getting two very different messages. Now, I mean, anybody who knows my work, has read my book, you know that it's all well documented. I have an entire lecture series on globalism, all from their own books. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that Father Damick doesn't know any of that stuff. Or if he does, he's not being honest about it. So there's another super chat, but let's see. I'm having a hard time seeing it. It's not wanting to. The scrolling here is looking all weird. So I want to make sure to get to it before somebody retracted a message there. Yes. We're all Russian bots. We're all Calvinist, Pharisee, incel Russian bots. That's all that there is that's out there. Anybody who's familiar with what we talk about knows that that's completely ludicrous. So anyway, so what's the solution to this? The one thing I will agree with in what Father Damick wrote was at the end, praying for people. So he and I at least agree there. And the doorway is always open on my end for people to interact. I've never interacted with him. I don't know him. Didn't have any bad will or anything bad to say about him. Hence why I called him when he called me an incel, and he hung up. So he's not interested in reconciliation. He's going to be holding things against me. I don't hold anything against you, man. Like all the stuff that you talked about, I think is a misunderstanding. You don't know my positions or what we're talking about. You could easily find out all the stuff that I talk about because all this stuff is very public. I put most of this stuff out there. A lot of people know and have interacted with me, and they know that, the stuff that you're saying is not true. So it's really not going to hold water. And I welcome, with open arms, the opportunity to be reconciled to you in good faith. But I'm not going to apologize for calling out serious issues related to what's being promoted at a place. And I'm not going to feel bad for that. Like, you're not going to guilt me into that. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not worried about that. I don't want to see ancient faith take a bad turn. A lot of people benefit from ancient faith. There's a lot of good stuff there. I hope that they do good work. I don't feel bad for sending a lot of money there for people buying Orthodox study Bibles. I still think people should buy Orthodox study Bibles. But there's nothing wrong with me choosing not to fund that stuff any more than there's anything wrong with people in a diocese or a parish if they have radical agendas being promoted in their church. There's nothing wrong with them making the decision in their conscience not to tithe there. And I'm not going to tithe and support people who are supporting evil, objectively evil things, and you shouldn't either. So. So our response is going to be the same as his, or what he claims, right? We will pray for him and hope that he changes his mind about these things. So, and we hope that the same for ancient faith and all of the radical political people who quite clearly have not seen, they often talk about humility and Orthodox worldview. None of the stuff that they're promoting is at all compatible with humility and Orthodox worldview. So they always talk about prelest. Well, spiritual pride is not a matter of, trying to figure out what the church teaches or what the fathers taught or what scripture teaches. In fact, we're enjoined to do that. Spiritual pride is the kind of thing that we're seeing here. So anyway. Someone needs to go through Ancient Faith Radio and separate the sheep from the goat. I would say, yeah. I mean, so you'll notice that the standard response is going to be emotional. If anybody responds to this, they're not going to actually look into the issues. They're going to just continue to say that I'm a bad man. And that's fine. I've been called a bad man for, the better of 15 years, right? Since talking about this kind of stuff. So I can take it. I'm not worried. These people are very fragile and easily broken. So he talked about us and our brokenness. No, I'm sorry, but I'm doing great, and I wish all those people well. I hope that we can overlook this stuff, and but I'm not going to overlook like the serious teachings, because I know how ideologies and worldviews work. So we'll see in time who's borne out with which positions are borne out. And if I've said anything wrong about anybody, I welcome correction. I will retract it gladly. Don't want to give the wrong impression about anybody or mischaracterize them. I know what it's like to, put stuff out there and have what you said mischaracterized. So certainly not my intention to do that. And I hope that this all can be resolved. So Lord have mercy. And that's the issue. So that's my take on it. That's my side on it. I've all laid it all out. So you can all make your own judgment calls in your conscience. So I'm speaking according to my conscience. That's my take. And thank you for the super chats. Thank you for everybody listening.